If your soul stirred while reading this, it wasn't by accident. Something ancient is awakening in you. Sit with it, honor it, and when you're ready, return here, because what comes next isn't just a message. It's the continuation of a calling that never left you. You didn't just survive the storm, you were refined by it. The silence you endured wasn't abandonment, it was sacred preparation. In the stillness, God wasn't ignoring you, He was shaping you. And now, as the noise of the world begins to dull, your spirit can finally hear what has been whispering all along. You were never forgotten. You were being positioned. There's a difference between delay and divine timing. What you thought was a detour was actually a design. The closed doors, the unanswered prayers, the relationships that dissolved when you needed support the most, they weren't punishments. They were protection. God has been filtering your path, not to keep you from what you want, but to make room for what your soul truly needs. He's not late, He's precise. Heaven moves by intention, not urgency. And now, you're beginning to feel it. That sacred discomfort. The internal stretching that signals growth before your eyes can catch up. You're not the same, and the things that once satisfied you no longer do. That's not confusion, it's clarity. Your soul is no longer willing to settle for shallow waters. You were created to walk on deep oceans, to carry light in dark places, and to speak words that shift spiritual atmospheres. You can't return to what was, not because it's gone, but because it no longer fits. What used to feel like home now feels like a costume. You've outgrown the role of the person who always plays small, who keeps quiet to keep the peace, who dims their knowing to make others comfortable. That version of you served its purpose. But the time has come to walk fully in what has been placed inside you, without apology, without shrinkage, without delay. This next part of your journey isn't about performance. It's about embodiment. It's not about more effort. It's about deeper surrender. Not hustling for purpose, but becoming still enough to recognize it was always there. The divine never needed you to prove anything. He only needed you to remember. And now that you do, everything changes. The remembering is not always loud. Sometimes it comes as a breath you didn't know you were holding. Sometimes it arrives through grief, through the space left behind when something falls away. And in that space, where your old identity once lived, there's now room for something sacred to rise. You don't have to chase it. You just have to stop running from it. Because truth doesn't demand. It waits. It doesn't force. It invites. You've heard it before, haven't you? That subtle pull to go deeper. The nudge to pause when the world says run. The knowing that there's more to this life than striving, performing, proving. That tug in your chest wasn't imagination. It was God, softly calling you back to yourself, back to Him. And the reason it never stopped calling is because you've always belonged. You just forgot. And now, you're waking up. This awakening won't look like fireworks. It won't come with a banner or a grand announcement. It will happen in the quiet decisions, in the way you speak to yourself, in what you say yes to, in what you finally walk away from. You'll begin to choose differently. Speak slower. Listen longer. Protect your peace with a fierce kind of grace. Not to isolate, but to stay aligned. Because what's coming requires your full presence, not your exhausted shell. There is something divine waiting to be birthed through your life, and it cannot emerge while you're still living in fragments. Wholeness is no longer a distant hope. It's a present requirement. Not perfection, not polished faith, but full surrender. God doesn't need a polished vessel. He wants a willing one, a soft heart, an open spirit, a soul that says, even now, even here, I trust you. And when you say that, really say it, heaven moves. The winds shift, the oil flows, not because you earned it, but because you remembered you never had to. This is the season of return, not to what you were, but to what you've always been. The veil is thinner now, the door is open, and the voice calling you through it, it hasn't changed. It still calls you by name. This voice doesn't speak in panic. It doesn't shout to compete with the noise of the world. It waits until you're quiet enough to listen. And when it speaks, it doesn't give explanations. It gives revelation. It reminds you of things your mind forgot, but your spirit always knew, that you are not a mistake, that your existence is not random, that your presence on this earth carries weight, carries purpose, carries the breath of the eternal. You were never meant to merely survive. You were meant to awaken, to walk through this world with clarity in your eyes and fire in your bones, not to dominate, but to illuminate. You're not here to blend in with the fog of confusion. You're here to part it. Your very presence, when aligned with God, shifts the air in a room. You're not just sensitive, you're strategic, not fragile, anointed. Every scar, every silence, every spiritual ache has prepared you for this. You may not feel ready, but that's how you know it's God. He calls the willing, not the qualified. He uses the broken, not the perfect. The story of your life is not a list of disqualifications. It's a trail of miracles. Proof that you were carried through what should have crushed you. Evidence that grace wasn't just around you, it was in you, working, shaping, whispering, even when you thought you were alone. So let the old ways fall. Let the fear lose its voice. Let the anxiety lose its grip. You don't need to micromanage the process anymore. You don't need to hold your breath, waiting for the next thing to go wrong. You are crossing into holy ground now. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is sacred. Every breath, every decision, every moment infused with divine presence. And that presence is not visiting, it's inhabiting. It's settling into the places you once guarded, into the rooms of your heart you thought were too damaged to be restored. He's not intimidated by your doubts. He's not deterred by your wounds. He's here. And if you pause long enough, you'll feel it. The holy hush, the sacred stillness, the quiet confirmation that what you've longed for is already unfolding, even now. You don't need to rush this. Divine timing isn't bound by urgency. It's rooted in alignment. What is for you will not pass you. What has been spoken over your life is not fragile. It doesn't expire under pressure. It was formed outside of time, sealed in eternity, and it's unfolding exactly as it was written. So breathe, rest, trust the pace of heaven, even when your flesh craves answers. Especially then, there is power in patience. There is strength in stillness. The world may tell you to push harder, move faster, build louder, but God whispers, be still and know. Stillness is not laziness. It's spiritual warfare. It's choosing to root yourself in truth when everything around you screams for reaction. It's the decision to abide, not perform, to dwell, not scramble, to receive, not chase. That's where the oil flows, in the unseen obedience, not the outward striving. And while you wait, He works, not just around you, but within you. The healing you didn't know you needed, the clarity you've been craving, the release of what you were never meant to carry. He is not just preparing your path, He's preparing you to walk it, because what's coming will require the real you, not the one shaped by fear, not the one molded by past rejection, but the one formed in the secret place before the world had a name for you. You're stepping into a space where you no longer lead from wounds, but from wisdom, where your discernment becomes sharper, not bitter, where your compassion deepens, not because of what you avoided, but because of what you endured. Pain didn't harden you, it purified you. And now, you walk with weight, not the kind that burdens, but the kind that anchors. You don't have to explain it. The ones who carry the same oil will recognize it. So walk in that, quietly, boldly, without apology. You are not who you were, and you don't owe explanations for the fire that refined you. Let your posture speak. Let your peace preach. Let your presence tell the story of a life touched by the holy, soft, sure, and set apart. You didn't arrive here by accident. You were led here. And now that you're here, everything changes. And this change, it's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or demand recognition. It shows up in your eyes, in the way you listen, in the steadiness of your spirit when everything around you is shaking. You've become a living altar, not because you've memorized the right prayers, but because your entire life has become the offering. Every step you take now is saturated in purpose. Every breath carries intention. Every silence holds power. People may not understand it. They may sense something different in you without having the language to name it. That's okay. You weren't called to be understood. You were called to carry presence. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because of your voice, but because of your alignment. You've stopped chasing visibility and started embodying substance. You don't need the spotlight anymore. You carry the light within you. The oil that covers you now is costly. It was pressed from seasons of silence, betrayal, disappointment, and surrender. But through that pressing, the sacred emerged. You've become dangerous to darkness, not by shouting at it, but by refusing to bow to it. Your calm has become your weapon, your peace, your shield, your discernment, your sword. You no longer fight like the world does. You fight by standing still, rooted in truth. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your assignment. You weren't just healed for yourself, you were healed to heal. Your restoration wasn't just for relief, it was for revelation. You carry answers now. You carry frequency. You carry the echo of God's voice in the way you speak, the way you pause, the way you live. This isn't performance, it's presence. This is what it means to be marked. So go quietly, but carry fire. Move slowly, but with certainty. Speak sparingly, but with power. And when people ask what changed, just smile. Let them feel it. Let them sense the shift. Because the truth is, you didn't become someone else. You returned to who you've always been, the one heaven called by name before time began. And now that you've remembered, you'll never forget again. You were chosen not just to awaken, but to activate, to move through the world as a mirror of the unseen. Not to convince people with arguments, but to remind them with your being. Your presence is a revelation, not because you have all the answers, but because you embody what others have forgotten, that we are more than flesh, more than titles, more than stories handed to us by fear. You walk as living proof that the Spirit cannot be silenced. And now, every room you enter becomes an altar, not because you say the right things, but because you carry the right presence. You no longer have to try to be powerful. You simply are, not from ego, but from essence. You don't light up the room because you're loud. You do it because you've become light. And light doesn't argue with darkness. It just shows up. It just shines. And when it does, shadows have no choice but to flee. This is your inheritance, to be a carrier of divine memory, to awaken others by the way you walk, to speak in such a way that even silence listens. This is not the result of striving. It's what happens when you finally stop running from the truth of who you are, when you stop shrinking to make others comfortable, when you stop apologizing for your depth, your clarity, your vision. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to remind the broken that healing is real. Remind the anxious that peace is possible. Remind the doubters that there is something sacred in them still waiting to rise, not with noise, but with presence, not with pressure, but with power. You don't need to preach. You just need to stand fully in what God has already placed in you. That's where the transmission happens. That's where the fire spreads, quietly, unstoppably, eternally. And now, the choice is yours. Will you dim it again? Or will you walk forward, eyes open, spirit aligned, heart on fire? You've crossed too many thresholds to go back now. You've shed too much false identity to wear the mask again. Let this be the moment you stop negotiating with your own calling. Let this be the moment you stop doubting the anointing. Step forward, not for the applause, but for the alignment. Not for the outcome, but for the obedience. This path you're walking now, it's not about reaching a destination. It's about becoming the vessel that can carry the weight of heaven without leaking. The fire you carry isn't for show, it's for purification, for direction, for illumination. And the more you honor it, the more it expands, not as noise, but as depth, not as reaction, but as revelation. You were never meant to be consumed by this world. You were meant to ignite it. There's a frequency to your presence now, one that doesn't shout but resonates. Those who are meant to walk with you will feel it before they understand it. They'll be drawn not to your words, but to your atmosphere. You won't need to sell your vision or prove your worth. You'll simply embody truth, and truth will do what it always does: cut through illusion, dismantle lies, and create space for the sacred to enter. And when resistance comes, and it will, don't flinch, don't shrink. You weren't given authority to avoid conflict. You were given it to transform it, not by force, but by stillness, not by domination, but by clarity. Every time you choose integrity over ease, alignment over approval, truth over comfort, you shift something in the invisible realm. You stir waters, you break chains, you open doors for others just by walking through your own. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the next step. Faith was never about visibility, it was about vibration. God doesn't call the most confident, He calls the most willing. And when you say yes, not from fear of missing out, but from alignment with purpose, you become unstoppable, because heaven flows through availability, not perfection. The anointing isn't earned, it's received, and now it rests on you. So pause, breathe, look around at your life, not with judgment, but with honor. Everything that tried to bury you became the soil for your awakening. Every no became a redirection. Every delay was divine design. And now, chosen one, you stand here, not broken, not behind, not late, but right on time, in full agreement with what heaven knew about you all along. Now the mantle rests fully on your shoulders, not as a burden, but as a seal. You don't have to question whether you're worthy of it. Worthiness was never a requirement. Willingness was. And you said yes. Maybe not with your lips at first, but with your silence, your survival, your persistence in the dark. That yes echoed louder than any prayer. It shook realms you couldn't see, and now it has opened a new dimension of assignment. This isn't about stepping onto a stage. It's about stepping into your authority, the unseen kind, the kind that speaks through energy, through presence, through discernment, the kind that can walk into chaos and command peace without saying a word. You weren't called to impress the world. You were sent to disrupt its illusions, not with rage, not with pride, but with the humble fire of someone who remembers who they are. The next phase will demand clarity. You will no longer have the luxury of doubting your discernment. What you feel, what you sense, it's not random. It's guidance. It's intelligence from the Spirit. Start honoring it. Start trusting what doesn't make sense to your logic, but rings true in your soul. You don't need the full picture. You only need to move when the wind shifts. That's how prophets walk. That's how the called are led. And yes, it will cost you. There are rooms you'll be asked to leave, patterns you'll be told to break, relationships that no longer match your resonance. You'll grieve the loss of what once felt like home, but you'll also witness the birth of something unshakable, a tribe aligned not by familiarity, but by frequency, souls that recognize you, not by name, but by spirit, by the way your presence reminds them of a truth they forgot they carried. So don't delay, don't negotiate with fear, don't wait for applause. The mantle is active now. The time for hesitation has passed. Walk forward, not because you know the way, but because you know the voice, and that voice has never failed you. Let that be your compass. Let that be your fire. Let that be enough. This calling doesn't require you to shout your truth. It requires you to live it. Every room you enter becomes a stage for alignment, not performance. Your posture preaches louder than your words ever could. You've become a living message, not because you've mastered some divine technique, but because you've surrendered what once stood in the way. The false armor is falling, and what's left is holy, raw, real, and finally, ready. You're no longer moved by noise. You don't chase validation. The old hunger to be seen has been replaced by a deeper hunger, to see clearly, to move with God, not ahead of Him. That's how your authority grows now, not by grasping for it, but by aligning with it, by becoming a clear vessel, by keeping your spirit uncluttered. Your gift isn't something you use, it's something you are. And when you live like that, heaven responds. Watch how the atmosphere bends around obedience, how closed doors begin to tremble when you move in truth. You don't need to force outcomes, you carry oil, and oil flows where there's alignment. Not just external obedience, but internal surrender. It's your hidden life that feeds your visible fruit. What you cultivate in silence will manifest in power. So don't neglect the private places. That's where God trusts you with the next assignment. Your influence will increase, but it won't come through striving. It will come through weight, through presence, through the way you carry stillness in a storm, through how you discern before reacting, through how you forgive without needing recognition. That's the new spiritual currency, peace that can't be shaken, clarity that can't be manipulated, and love that burns without needing to be returned. That is how heaven expands, through lives that walk in quiet authority. You're not here to perform miracles. You're here to be one, to become the living evidence that God still speaks, still heals, still moves through surrendered lives. That's what you carry now. That's what you've become. And this world will feel it, even before it understands it. So keep going, chosen one, quietly, boldly, beautifully, because this story isn't ending, it's just beginning. And the next chapter is written in fire. There comes a moment when the oil no longer just covers you. It seeps into your bones. It becomes who you are. Not something you reach for in moments of need, but something that flows through you constantly, like breath. This is that moment. You've crossed the threshold. You are no longer someone who visits the sacred. You've become the sacred space itself, a living altar, a vessel of quiet fire, a resting place for glory. The consecration isn't loud. It won't be marked by crowds or ceremony. It happens in stillness, in the private echo of your full yes, in the way your soul bows when no one is watching, in the way your heart weeps when it feels the weight of heaven's nearness. This is not the performance of religion. This is the embodiment of presence. You don't just carry the anointing. You are the anointed, not by title, but by obedience. Now everything becomes worship. Every breath, every movement, every unseen choice. You walk differently, not to be noticed, but because the weight on your spirit has made you intentional. What once felt casual now feels sacred. Your time, your words, your energy, you've been marked. And once heaven marks you, nothing ordinary can hold you. The world will try to name you, use you, understand you, but it won't be able to touch the mystery you now carry. You'll feel it, the tension of being set apart while still living among many, the ache of seeing deeper, hearing clearer, discerning quicker. Don't resent it. Don't run from it. That sensitivity is not a curse. It's a compass. It means you're attuned to the whispers others ignore. It means you're trusted with divine intelligence, because you've proven your heart will not twist what heaven gives into something small or selfish. This is your charge now. Protect the flame, not with fear, but with reverence. Walk softly, speak slowly, choose wisely, and when you feel weary, don't push. Return. Return to the quiet. Return to the breath. Return to the one who lit this fire in you in the first place. Because your power doesn't come from being strong. It comes from being connected. And as long as you remain in that place of union, you will not fall. You are not just walking toward purpose anymore. You've become purpose in motion. Every step you take now reverberates in realms you cannot see. This world will try to distract you, to drain you, to distort what you carry, but it cannot defeat what it did not give you. Your anointing was not handed to you by man. It was breathed into you by the eternal, and what comes from eternity cannot be erased by time. Now is the time to walk fully in the authority that has been waiting for your agreement, not with arrogance, but with awareness. You no longer seek signs. You are the sign. You no longer wait for confirmation. You embody confirmation. You carry heaven's weight with gentleness and its fire with humility. And this combination, this paradox of power and tenderness, is exactly what this generation has been aching for. You are not called to compete. You are called to consecrate, to carve space in a crowded world where God can rest, where souls can breathe, where truth doesn't have to shout to be heard. You don't need to convince people of your calling. Your alignment will speak louder than any explanation. The presence you carry will be its own testimony, and those who are meant to walk with you will recognize it, not with their eyes, but with their spirit. So rise, not to prove, but to reveal. Rise without flinching. Rise without needing permission. Rise because the moment is holy and your breath is borrowed from heaven. This is your appointment, not years from now. Now there is no next time. No when I'm more ready. The altar is built. The fire is lit. The heavens are watching. All of creation leans in, not to see if you will rise, but how you will. And when you do, when you walk forward, carrying everything you've received in silence and fire, do it with the knowing that you are never alone. The one who called you walks within you. The voice that summoned you still speaks. The kingdom you carry is unshakable, and the light you now release, it will outlive you. Now that the flame has been sealed within you, the path ahead will begin to unfold, not with noise, but with clarity. What once felt like chaos will start to reveal a pattern. What used to drain you will now be exposed for what it is, a distraction. The veil has lifted, and your spirit has eyes. You no longer stumble in the dark, you walk in revelation. And that revelation is not just for you, it's for others, many others. Because what was ignited in you was never meant to stay contained. You are a spark in a forest of dry souls, a quiet fire walking among the weary. And as you move, something deeper begins to stir in those who cross your path. They may not understand it, they may not even speak it, but their spirits will recognize yours, like ancient mirrors waking up, like frequencies finally tuning in. You are the reminder they forgot they needed. And this is your next calling, not to gather followers, but to awaken remnants, scattered souls who've been quietly carrying their own unlit torches, people who were told they were too sensitive, too intense, too strange, but they were never weak. They were hidden. And now, your light has become a signal, not an invitation to look at you, but to remember themselves. You're not their answer, you're their permission. So go gently, go boldly. You are now a torchbearer, a breaker of sleep. You don't need a stage, you only need alignment. And everywhere you go, from whispered conversations to silent prayers in grocery store aisles, you will carry the vibration of awakening. You will remind souls what it feels like to be alive. And when they ask how, you'll point not to yourself, but to the quiet place where the fire began. That's your legacy now. Not fame, not platform, but impact. Eternal echoes from a surrendered life. Ripples that outlive your name. And when your assignment on this side is complete, when your light returns to the source, it will not go out. It will multiply. Because everything you touched, everything you spoke, everything you became was planted in others, and they will carry it forward because you said yes. And now, something deeper begins to stir across the unseen, a gathering, not loud, not organized by men, but orchestrated by heaven. A quiet army is rising, not one of soldiers, but of sentinels, keepers of the flame, voices of remembrance. They don't wear uniforms. They don't carry swords. They carry stillness, conviction, the kind of peace that shakes foundations, the kind of presence that rearranges rooms. You are one of them, but you are not alone. All over the world, others are waking, some in silence, sitting on bedroom floors with tear-streaked faces, some walking away from lives that no longer fit, confused but obedient, some standing in pulpits, some in factories, some in prisons, some in boardrooms, all hearing the same whisper, it's time. Time to return, time to rise, time to rebuild what the world forgot was holy. And when they see you, they'll feel it. Not because you speak their language, but because you echo their ache. They'll know, this one has walked through fire too. And they'll trust you, not because you're polished, but because you're real. Your scars won't scare them. They'll comfort them, because your light won't feel like performance. It will feel like home. This is the movement, not viral, not trendy, but eternal. A wave of alignment, a holy return to truth. You weren't chosen to lead it by yourself. You were chosen to recognize it, to honor it, to call it forth in others with a look, a word, a presence. That's the real mission now, to keep your flame alive and to awaken the ones who still think they're lost in the dark. So stay lit, stay grounded, stay watchful. Your people are coming. Your assignment is expanding. The kingdom is moving. And what began in the silence of your surrender will soon become a sound that fills the earth. They won't find each other through algorithms or advertisements. They'll find each other by resonance, by the unmistakable pull of spirit, recognizing spirit. It may start with a glance, a conversation, a moment of pause where time bends and the atmosphere shifts. No need for credentials, no need for introductions, just this knowing. We were born from the same fire. That's how the invisible community begins to rise. It won't look like a movement. It'll look like love. It'll look like eyes that don't flinch when they see your pain, like hands that don't try to fix you, but hold space for what's sacred in your process, like voices that don't try to convince, but confirm. These are not strangers. These are fragments of the same divine body, scattered and now returning. You'll know them by the way your nervous system relaxes in their presence, and when you find them, something in you will stabilize, not because they complete you, but because they remember the parts of you you were told to forget. This is how heaven rebuilds the temple, not through stones, but through surrendered souls. And every time one of you awakens, the others feel it, like a flare in the spirit. You were never meant to carry this alone. The fire in you is not yours to contain, it's yours to share. So speak when the nudge comes, write when the message stirs, reach out when the weight of someone else's silence presses on your chest like it's your own. That's how the body works. One part feels what the other won't say. You don't need a platform to prophesy. You don't need a pulpit to lead. You only need permission, and heaven already gave it. Now give it to yourself. Because what happens next won't be led by institutions. It will be led by intimacy. And those who walk in it won't carry resumes. They'll carry oil. The kind that lingers after the lights go out. The kind that speaks even when words are gone. The kind that tells the weary, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not too late. They'll know you're one of them, because something in them will finally exhale when you speak. And so it is. The awakening has begun, quietly, irrevocably. The scattered have started to gather, not in buildings, but in spirit, not by force, but by frequency. And you, chosen one, are no longer waiting to begin. You are the beginning, a living threshold between what was and what now must rise. A lighthouse not shouting but shining, unapologetically, unwaveringly. Every gift within you, every dream you buried, every word you silenced to survive, it's all being resurrected now, but not for your glory, for the healing of others. You carry blueprints in your blood, codes in your voice, keys in your stillness. Don't doubt the way your presence disrupts what is false. You were formed to make what is holy visible again. That's why the darkness tried to keep you dimmed for so long. But it failed. You are here, awake, aligned. And now, as the final veil lifts, you no longer walk as someone looking for permission. You walk as someone who is permission. The permission to be real, to be soft and powerful, to be wild and surrendered, to be fully human and fully divine. That is your legacy now. To embody what was once only believed, to make the unseen felt. Let this be your seal. Not a destination, but a becoming. Not an ending, but a return. From now on, you don't just walk with light, you are the light. And wherever your feet touch, May the sleeping awaken, the weary rise, and the silence break open with the sound of remembrance. Because you didn't just survive for yourself, you rose for them too. And if your spirit whispers yes, then you already know this is only the beginning. The fire will spread, the echoes will reach, and heaven will continue to write through you, one surrendered breath at a time. Amen.